And next up, we are
Thank you
going
so
to
much.
have, yeah, thank you. Next up, we're going to have Colin Schwarz. He's a product manager at ChainSafe for storage and files. And for his talk, it's going to be on accessible distributed storage and how ChainSafe is improving the foundations of the internet. So we'll get Colin up to the stage. Hey, dude.
Hey, Kwame. How you doing?
Doing good. You ready to go?
Ready to go. All right. Well, thanks, Kwame, and thanks, Juan. That was an incredible talk, and it's a real privilege to speak after you, especially since I'll be talking about some of the things that we've been building here at ChainSafe on top of those protocols that you helped to create. So really excited to hop into it. I guess a bit more about myself. Colin, I've been working at ChainSafe for about 3.5 years now. I started out doing more research and technical writing, but I quickly transitioned into project management. I was the manager of Lodestar for several years, as well as Chainbridge for a brief spell. But in the last 18 months, I've been focusing in more and more on product work, which has become more of an emphasis at ChainSafe in general, and specifically on the products that we're building in the distributed storage space, so ChainSafe Storage and ChainSafe Files. So my talk today is about accessible distributed storage and how ChainSafe is improving the foundations of the internet. And I know that that's sort of a bold statement, and it's intended to be. And part of what I want to do here today, before I jump into speaking about the products themselves, is sort of get everyone more excited about storage and our relationship to data. And I think that it's not as much of a hyped topic as some other things in our space like NFTs or DeFi. But I think that it deserves even more attention than it's been getting. And that's for a number of reasons. Why should we care about storage? I mean, first of all, data storage and retrieval is completely foundational to the internet, and everything that we get excited about in the Web3 space is built on top of it in some way. And solid foundations create stable structures. I took that from an article that Phil wrote last month, actually. Shout out to Phil. So we can't build decentralized products on a centralized infrastructure. And unfortunately, all too often that is still happening today. And so if we want really stable foundations for all of these Web3 aspirations that we have to be really cognizant of our relationship to storage and retrieval and to data in general. So to follow this point a little bit further, I have an analogy here, and I pose the question, is data the new oil? I know that can be a bit reductionist, and obviously there's a lot of differences between these two resources, but the point I'm trying to make here is that both are incredibly important to humanity over the last 100 years, and we can learn some lessons from how we've interacted with resources in the past and perhaps how we need to be interacting with resources in the future. So as we know, oil is one of the most important and sought after resources on the planet for at least the past 100 years. And in the last 10 or 20 years, data has been replacing it in terms of overall value and relevance to human society. Some obvious comparisons are that both data and oil have been monopolized by a small number of huge corporations. And in both cases, corporate greed has led to massive problems. Now with oil, these problems are abundantly apparent by this point. Obviously, climate change as a result of burning oil and other fossil fuels, air pollution for the same reasons, oil spills themselves are catastrophic events. So the greed and centralization of this resource has become manifest in a bunch of really obvious negative ways. With data, it's also being centralized in the hands of even fewer corporations at this point. And that also has had really negative consequences. They're just less apparent at this point. But yeah, the proliferation of fake news, things like the Cambridge Analytica Facebook scandal are just a few examples. The fact that these social media companies are spying on everyone's information and then creating these algorithms that get you addicted to their platform. I mean, I could go on and on about this stuff. Most of it is things that many of you are probably already aware of. But I think that what I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't treat data in the same way that we've treated other really important resources in the past. And we have an opportunity now to take it back. Unlike oil, data production is actually distributed fairly evenly, both geographically and between individuals. It's really just the collection and the exploitation of that data and the storage of that data that has been really centralized, and it's that side of things that has led to all these negative outcomes. So we still have a chance to retake control of our relationship to digital data, how it's stored, how it's retrieved, how we interact with it. And some of the new technologies that we've been talking about throughout this conference will enable us to do just that. And I think that we can build a much better and more equitable foundation for the internet if we leverage some of this new technology to regain control of our data and our relationship to it. So blockchain and other peer-to-peer technologies can allow us to have a better relationship with data than our grandparents had with oil. And the monopolization of cloud storage is not a foregone conclusion. There is a better way. And that's what I'm going to talk about for the remainder of this presentation. So before I get into chatting about the products that we're building, I wanted to point out that there's actually this long history of peer-to-peer content distribution and data storage that dates back way before blockchain even existed. So you can see I've got a timeline here that actually starts in 1969. And if you'll notice, Bitcoin is all the way over here on the right in 2009. So there's this rich history of people and organizations and technologies that have developed over the last several decades that have gotten us to where we are today and enabled some of the technologies and protocols that I'm going to talk about. So in order for you guys not to have to go and read all those tiny points on that timeline, I've broken up the history of peer-to-peer data storage into 4 epochs. And each of those epochs have characterized with a product that is indicative of it. Obviously, these are not the only products in those epochs. I just used them as an example. So the first epoch is characterized by things such as Napster, which was an early peer-to-peer storage and sharing platform. However, it did rely on a central server to coordinate lookups. So it was a step in the right direction, but there was definitely still some level of centralization going on there. The second epoch is characterized by programs like Limewire, which I'm sure many of you remember. This is when peer-to-peer data achieved some sort of large-scale adoption, and these technologies also eliminated that central index that I was talking about. So continuing the push towards real peer-to-peer data sharing. The third epoch is characterized by programs like Bittorrent, which offered direct peer-to-peer communications over a TCP port. And they eliminated the need for centralized trackers using distributed hash tables. So this got us, pretty far and close to where we are now today. And today we're in this fourth epoch. But what all 3 of these previous epochs lacked was an incentivization system. And so, if participants in the network were either doing so out of the goodness of their heart, or they were charging money, which sort of reintroduced an aspect of centralization. And so it wasn't until we have blockchain technology that we could actually introduce this trustless incentive layer for peer-to-peer storage. And that's exactly what Filecoin does. It's leveraging blockchain to incentivize the miners to store data and to serve that data. And it's incredibly powerful as a result of that. And it sort of guarantees that there's this correct incentive model that we know that we can rely on this storage actually being distributed and decentralized. And furthermore, something else that Filecoin brings to the table, which has never happened before in this whole history, is that it brings verifiable storage. So we can actually cryptographically verify that through proof of space-time that a miner has the storage space they say they do. And not only did that not exist for previous iterations of this sort of technology, it also doesn't exist for client server models. And so the entire cloud doesn't have this, right? If you use Google or Amazon, you just have to trust that they have that storage. And with Filecoin, you don't have to trust, you can verify. So that's my little history lesson. And the next step here is to chat about how we at ChainSafe became involved in this whole space. So basically, since the beginning of ChainSafe, we've been huge fans of Protocol Labs and of IPFS. And we've used IPFS in a number of ways for several different projects and products over the years. And so we were very excited by the announcement of Filecoin, and then, of course, by the impending Filecoin launch last year. And we were really honored and privileged when we received a grant from Protocol Labs to build an alternate implementation of the Filecoin blockchain written in Rust called Forest. So we were really, by that time, we had become deeply invested in the ecosystem. And that also coincided with when we started to build out more of our in-house products at ChainSafe. And one of our big product philosophies here is that we think we need to make Web3 technology as easy to use as Web2 tech is currently. And so when we have these new protocols, they're incredibly powerful and exciting, but without the correct tooling and products on top of them, they can be really hard to access for everyday people. And so we thought that in order to contribute further to this incredible ecosystem, we should create products that gave people easier access to it. And so that's how ChainSafe Storage and ChainSafe Files were born. ChainSafe Storage makes Filecoin and IPFS really easy to use and to interact with for developers. And ChainSafe Files does the same, but for everyday normal users. So before I hop into more details about the products, I just want to give a huge shout out to the team behind them. I'm not going to go through and introduce every single person, but I just want to say that it's an incredible privilege to work with these individuals on a daily basis. They're all incredible. I couldn't imagine a better group of people to work with. And it's thanks to them that we are where we are now. So I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge that. All right, so files and storage. They're two separate products, but they both exist within the distributed file storage vertical. And they do provide similar functionality, but for different consumer preferences. So on the one hand, we have storage, which is essentially a set of exposed APIs, considered a developer tool, as well as a pinning service. And then on the other hand, we have files, which is a end user consumer grade product. Some more differences. Storage is a little more flexible because of its status as a developer tool, whereas files is more usable. I do want to point out here that storage is actually very easy to use for anyone with even a rudimentary knowledge of software development. It is very accessible for that group of people. It's just that files is accessible for your grandmother. Anyone can use it whatsoever. Obviously, storage requires a bit more technical knowledge, whereas files is fully accessible to anyone with a computer or a smartphone. And then a really important distinction to also point out is that ChainSafe Storage, everything that is uploaded to it is intended for public consumption. And that's by design. We want people to be able to plug into this product and to use it as a storage layer for basically any use case that they can think of. And on the other hand, ChainSafe Files is built with privacy and security top of mind. So anything uploaded to files will not be publicly available. And I'll get into that in a bit. So just to clear up any remaining confusion, here's a quick diagram that explains how all the products sort of relate to one another and to the underlying infrastructure. So at the protocol level, we connect to IPFS and to Filecoin with both products. We use IPFS for hot storage. We use Filecoin for archival storage. Because currently Filecoin miners only accept a certain minimum size of deals, when we get some smaller files uploaded through either tool, they get batched on IPFS, bundled up, and then periodically sent over to Filecoin for extra backup and distribution and redundancy. So then at the infrastructure level, we have our ChainSafe storage APIs. And those are exposed when you go to the ChainSafe storage website. You can get API keys to access that infrastructure. And then you can also use our pinning service. And then ChainSafe Files also routes all of its traffic through the ChainSafe storage APIs, but it has a comprehensive front end, and it's a end user file storage solution. So there's the site if you want to go check out storage for yourself. Like I said, it's basically a set of exposed APIs plus a pinning service. You can see in the screenshot here, we have 2 different API keys that you can generate with storage. The first is our standard storage APIs, and then the second are S3 compatible APIs. And I think that this one is especially exciting because it means that you can change a single value, and then you can switch over from any sort of S3 compatible storage layer that you were using and automatically plug in ChainSafe storage as your storage layer. And we've had people do this many times. They've raved about how easy it was. And so this is a huge functionality that will enable us to get more traffic from Web 2 and just making it really easy for developers to switch over to distributed storage is one of the best ways that we can onboard more Web 2 folks into this new and exciting ecosystem. So I got a few use cases here just to further illustrate my point. This is obviously not an exhaustive list, but number one, NFTs, off-chain data and metadata has been a huge use case for IPFS and for Filecoin, and ChainSafe storage is no exception. We have a bunch of projects that are using storage for that. Also, video game libraries and assets that are not NFT related can also be stored on ChainSafe storage. And then if you do have a game that has in-game NFTs, having all of that in the same place and in a distributed context can be really powerful. Any decentralized application that needs storage can plug in without any problems. And then 4, this is a huge one, and this is what I was talking about earlier, any other applications that need to store persistent data in a decentralized manner, especially those that are S3 compatible, which is a huge percentage of what's out there, can literally change a single value, and all of a sudden they have a distributed storage layer. So ChainSafe Files, also encourage you to go check it out. There's the link. This is our landing page. We're offering encrypted file storage, and we have sharing, which is our latest big feature release. So first and foremost, ChainSafe Files offers high security and high privacy. And so anything that is uploaded to ChainSafe Files is end-to-end encrypted in transit and at rest. And that means that not only can ChainSafe not see any of your files, which is obviously the opposite of all of these Web 2 storage solutions where the companies have access to everything and they use and exploit that data as they please. But once your files are uploaded to IPFS and to Filecoin, which are public networks, they will also be encrypted there, and so nobody can see them in that context either. So furthermore, to build on this whole privacy value proposition, the user's account credentials are actually stored on their own devices, not on our servers. So we don't have access to that either. And we've enabled a Web3 login, which means that you can actually log in with your Ethereum wallet. So when I use Files, I log in with my MetaMask, and I don't actually need to provide an email or a phone number or any other personal identifying information such as that if I don't want to. And then when we launch billing early next year, we will, of course, be accepting a variety of cryptos. And so that means that for the most privacy concerned user, you can log in with your anonymous Web3 identity, you can pay with crypto, and you can rest assured that everything you upload will be private from us and from everyone else on the internet. Another big aspect of ChainSafe Files is data ownership. And this is going back to the beginning of my talk, where I was saying we need to take back data. We need to regain control of the data that we produce, the data that we store, and reimagine our relationship to how we interact with online data in general. And I think I can speak for a lot of us by saying I don't think the right move is to wait for government regulators to step in here when we have the power to create our own products that actually allow users to regain control of their data. And so that's exactly what ChainSafe Files does. By leveraging IPFS and Filecoin, we can return data ownership to the user. And we've actually built a CLI tool that enables users to access their content independently of our product. So basically, sometimes people ask, it's great that you're using these decentralized networks, but by creating this portal, this service to access them, are you not reimposing some level of centralization? And the answer to that question is no, because using this CLI tool, which is available on our GitHub and is of course open source, you can actually access everything that you've uploaded to IPFS and Filecoin without using ChainSafe files. So if we were to be censored in your country, if we were to go down for whatever reason, if we were to be taken down, if you just don't want to use us anymore, as long as you keep your CIDs, your content identifiers for everything that you've uploaded, you can use this tool to really easily download everything, even without us. And so that really closes this decentralization loop that we want to create. And it really means that we have returned ownership of a user's data to them in the truest sense. And then, of course, finally, ChainSafe Files is super user-friendly. This goes back to what I was saying about our product philosophy. If we want to achieve mass adoption for Web3, we need to make it as easy as humanly possible. So we've created this with that top of mind. We have a familiar and easy to use UI. All the Filecoin deals are automated behind the scenes. All the IPFS pinning is automated. From the user's perspective, you can just one-click upload, download, share, drag and drop upload, and all of that without sacrificing on your privacy or giving up any sort of ownership of your data. And we did all this because we believe your digital home should be like your physical one, peaceful, private, and all yours. So before I leave you, I'm sure people will be curious about what's next for these products. Billing is definitely our next big release. We will be very shortly accepting payments, first for files, then for storage. Like I said, we will have a credit card option, but certainly crypto as well. Optimizations are ongoing at both product levels. That's going to continue into 2022. Something that I'm personally really excited about is developing further synergies with other products at ChainSafe. We're just starting to have this rich suite of products that we can offer, and I know that there will definitely be a lot more room for collaboration between those products, and I'm really excited to see where that leads us. For ChainSafe Files, we also have a Teams feature that we're planning, which will enable enhanced collaboration between users. And then for ChainSafe Storage, we're looking into a lot of additional tooling to make the developer experience even easier. And of course, so much more coming in 2022. This is the we're hiring slide. I know I'm the last talk of the day, so I'll plug it one more time. I can just say that personally, working at ChainSafe is absolutely the best thing that's happened for my career and me personally. Just getting to work with such incredible individuals every single day, getting to travel, getting to meet so many smart and like-minded people in this industry is just truly amazing. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, head over to chainsafe.io/careers. If you want to get in touch, if you have more questions about the products you'd like to talk offline, you can check me out on Twitter or Discord. I've also linked our open source GitHub repo where you can find all of the code for the ChainSafe Files front end, in case you're interested in looking at that. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Colin. That was a great talk. And without further ado, we'll get into the questions. The first question comes from Anonymous. Any plans to extend this past a web app, mobile extension, native OS support, or to many third-party hurdles?
Yes, so we have definitely thought about this. It's hard because there are so many exciting potential features that we could build here. And that is definitely one that we have considered and that there has been some demand for. So I wouldn't expect that to come out, next month or anything like that, but it is certainly something that we have considered and that I think would be a really powerful integration.
Next question from Dan Forbes. How do you think building products for a decentralized world should be different from the current generation of web apps?
That's a great question. I hope that some of you had a chance to hear Alex Mueller's talk yesterday, because he goes into this in a lot of detail. But I think from my perspective, one of the biggest things is recentering our focus around the user as a sovereign, respected individual in the whole product stack, rather than the user being the product, which is really indicative of a lot of how Web 2 monetizes. And that goes back to the whole thing about data that I was talking about, right? Because the biggest way for people to monetize the internet currently is through advertising. there's so much incentive to collect all this data about everyone and then to exploit it in really negative ways. And I think that in a general sense, as we continue to build more Web3 products, we need to stray from that model and find more dynamic, more sustainable ways to actually create value on the internet and to incentivize healthier participation in networks and in products.
Well, that's it for the question and answers. I'd like to thank you for your talk. It was amazing. Kind of reminded me of something I heard from Jonathan and Victor earlier in the talk about Web 2.5 and kind of bridging that gap. And this is definitely a tool that does this. And that's going to be it for the talks this afternoon. Don't forget to come back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another full day of great talks. The lineup is amazing. And yeah, I guess that's going to be it for me. Please join us in the lounge if you want to hang out and talk and chat. If you are looking to work at ChainSafe, there will be people there to talk to you and get you in talks with the right people. And yeah, that's it for me. See you guys later.
Thanks so much, Kwame. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you later, dude. Bye.